webinar, we'll be having a Q&A where we'll try to again check how close we are in terms of meeting expectations. Okay, we have got majority of the people who are curious and to learn about how certain initiatives are. And yes, we'll be assuring you that we'll be touching on all these aspects and meeting your expectations. Thank you guys. So I'll be moving on to the last question as part of this icebreaker activity that is on your screen. What is the biggest challenge in building or innovating sustainability? So if you have ever been part of a project where you have wanted to, or you have initiated to build something or innovate something, or while doing that, were there any blockers that has come in your way, whether it could be something as simple as lack of craftsmanship, or lack of skill, maybe lack of resources, or you're not simply aware of where to begin. And maybe it could be the reason of resources and cost, and or you were not sure of how to maintain it. And yeah, so we are very curious to know what is the biggest challenge in building or innovating a sustainable project or a home. Good, good. Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. We are 10 minutes into the webinar. Thank you. I guess we have got some very insightful engagement going on. Feel free to keep this engagement throughout the session. We'd like to encourage you to stay till end of the session. We'll be again touching on this expectations, and we'll be having a Q&A. And also towards the end, we'll be sharing you some of the exciting events and the activities that we are bringing to the community in the coming months. So we are expecting that everybody would be stayed here throughout the session. And now I would want to move on from the Mentimeter. And yeah, so if you're curious, the Mentimeter would be on throughout the session. You can always go back and participate in that. But now, since we have understood the expectations, we are very curious to start our today's topic. Today's topic is, as many of you know, is how to build a sustainable, how to build a sustainable house. And this session is brought to you by Manisha Lat Gupta, who is the uh, founder of Ananda Project and also founder of the Ananda Permaculture Academy. So a bit about Manisha. I'll try to give you a bit context. I'm sure Manisha has a lot of experience and a lot of insights to share, but I'll try to share a bit of background of where Manisha is coming from. So Manisha has always been somebody who is very passionate about sustainability. She has and strong intention to give back to community and add value to community by not ravaging the planet, right? And only using resources what is available, and going with the systems thinking. So this has made a Manisha to start something meaningful, having a strong 2.5 decades of corporate journey, working across big corporates like Uber, Access India, and Hindustan Unilever. And she has realized that there is something even more meaningful ways that Manisha could contribute. And that is what made her to start on the permaculture project. And she has integrated uh, her corporate experience and balancing the lessons of permaculture principles and ethics. And yeah, so that is where her journey has begun. And the idea behind starting the permaculture academy was to enable this mindset within everybody in our network, so that people can leverage these principles and ethics, and can utilize them and can implement them at their own context. So this is a bit about Manisha and a background about Manisha, where is she coming from. So now I would like to hand over to Manisha and share her experience lessons a bit about the context of Ananda, and then
Thank
about
you.
the today's topic itself.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Subodh. Thanks for the introduction and welcome, everybody. It is really, really heartening to see the turnout here. We have at this point in time almost 90 people on this webinar. That's 90. And it's very heartening for me to know that so many people would be interested in a topic like this, because then that means that all of you are bringing about change in your own areas. I'm also very, very excited and what shall I say, overwhelmed at the number of places that people are joining from, like so many countries and cities across the world. And that again, it's moments like these which make us believe that what we are doing is important, is right, and we keep marching ahead. So I have, I saw some comment which said, "Can you be a bit louder?" So I've tried to increase my volume. Let me now begin. I'm going to start sharing my screen and take you through the presentation that I've put together for you guys about how to build a sustainable house. At the very outset, let me clarify: I'm not an architect. I'm not a contractor. I'm not a builder. I am basically a house owner who has thought about how to build a sustainable house and then learned many lessons on this journey, which I'm trying to share with you today. So, everything that I say, please don't take it as gospel. You will still have to go back and check with your architects, your structural engineers, with your local masons, whoever is helping you build the house. But I want to tell you about how to think this through as a homeowner or as somebody who uh, has some agency over this project. So you could be a homeowner, you could be an architect, you could be a builder. But my perspective is that of a homeowner. Okay, so yeah. So one of the things that everybody, I mean, a lot of people I meet tend to tell me is that, listen, we've bought this piece of land, we want to do permaculture in it. And as a first step, I want to build the house. My experience and my advice on this would be that do not be in any hurry to build a house. You can always build a small place for you to park yourself, which is what we had for 12, 13 years. But focus more on first regenerating the landscape, restoring the biodiversity, growing your food, harvesting your water, and building the habitat. Once you've built the habitat, then you should go ahead and build your home, because you will build very, very differently when you are surrounded by trees, for example. But you will build very differently if you're in a barren piece of land. So, in a barren piece of land, had I thought of building a home on the land that you see on the left, the 2010 picture, it would have had to be a heavily air conditioned home. And actually, that time I knew nothing. I would have built a house just like a city house and put it on this land. But when I am looking to build this a house in 2021 in this habitat, I actually have the luxury of choosing my materials, of looking at my energy consumption. I am working in a completely different environment, and that's a very, very important thing. So always wait, don't be in any hurry. First build your habitat, then build your house. Now, one of the things that you should keep in mind is the permaculture principles that apply to your garden very much apply to building your home as well. So the big principles of catching and storing energy, using and valuing renewable resources, producing no waste, integrating rather than segregating, creatively using and responding to change. So many of these principles are applied very much to architecture and to construction as well. And similarly, the universal concepts of sustainable living really form the bedrock of your decisions as you're building a home like this. So if you look at the triple bottom line uh, model, you will see that you should actually try to build only what is bearable to the planet. You should try to spend only that much as looks equitable for you. And you should also just see the viability of what you're building. So all these three things you should keep in mind. And it's very similar to Fair Share, Earth Care, and People Care. Whatever you're building, is it good for the people who are building it and who will live in it? Will it be good for the planet? And in the process of building this, are you just taking your fair share or are you taking it all? These are the three things that we kept in mind as well as we set out to build what we call a sustainable house. Now, before I get started on what a sustainable house is, let me tell you that even though I had a very clear sense of what I wanted to build, it was not easy for me to find an architect who was willing to build something like this. The reason being because not too many architects have an experience in this area. And sometimes they feel that a project like this can be very risky. It can be something that might ruin their reputation or may get them into trouble. Whereas they can build the normal construction houses like, very easily because that's something they're doing all the time. All their vendors are in place, their masons are in place, their contractors are in place, and they get a lot of efficiency in building those kind of homes. But I was lucky to find our architect, Mr. Jitesh Malik, who is very much from the neighborhood. And that was one of my requirements, that whoever is our architect should belong to Chandigarh and be nearby. And he had a lot of connections and relationships back in Auroville, with which he had very strong professional as well as spiritual ties. So he had never built a house like this before, but he was willing to take on the project. And that is how he became our architect. And we decided that together we will figure out a way to make this, because neither of us really knew how to build a place like this. Now, as we sat down to define what we wanted to build, we wrote an extensive brief. And I recommend everybody who's trying to build something to please put down your requirements on a piece of paper. It's very common for people to go and tell an architect, bas aap hamare liye ghar bana do, just make a house for us. But if you don't know what you want, then even they won't know what to give you. And you will end up just building yet another house like many other houses that you have. So we wrote a 7-page brief for Jitesh, and it was pretty clear to him what we wanted. And I don't think he could have made anything other than what he's made, because our brief was so tight. But the overall definition of our house was that it should use minimal resources to make. It should have minimal energy to run. It should be non-toxic, because after building such a beautiful organic land around myself, I did not want to then stuff my house with toxic stuff. And it should be self-sufficient to the largest extent possible. So these were really our, I would say, 4 pillars and things that kept guiding us. And as we embarked on the journey of building this sustainable house. Now we realized there were 3 things that we needed, and they all needed to come in place, come together to build sustainably. The first was design. Design is something that not many people actually think of, because they think that design to aap kuch bhi bana lo, you can make any design. It's just the materials and technology that matter. But that's not true. If you want to be a sustainable architect, or you want to have a sustainable house, the most important thing is to get the design right. Because if the design is not climate appropriate, if it is not right sized, then you will just be trying to play catch up with materials and technology. The second thing is materials. We want to use as much local material as possible with low embodied energy, which have a long life and they are non-toxic. And then technology was really the big debate. Okay, what kind of technology should we use? Even when you talk about earth architecture, there are many, many options. And we need to figure out which one we wanted to go with. So let me talk you through each one of these in a little bit more detail. Let's talk about the sustainable design part of the piece of the puzzle. The important thing is really to design a house which is very appropriately sized. And in our case, we were very lucky that we had spent many years in Mumbai. And as many of you in Mumbai know, the house size is very small. So we never had this craze of building something so huge. And in fact, even after we started the project, I shaved off 500 or 600 square feet from the house design, even when we had begun construction at one end. Because every place I used to ask the architect, "Bhai, yaha, who will clean up this place? Yaha, who will do the mopping, who will do the sweeping, and who will keep this place cool or hot?" So please think of the spaces as easy to cool, easy to heat, and easy to maintain. And don't get caught up with the impact of it. And the other thing was, like, suppose you want to build for multiple people, there is always a way for you to have rooms which can be used for multiple functions. So while this house has 3 bedrooms, it can actually still host maybe 20 people in the house, because many of our other spaces can double up as guest spaces if you just put mattresses on the floor. They will still have privacy, they'll still have a room, they'll still have a bathroom they can use, because we have double them up for other uses. Ask for from your architect a full study of how the sun will move in winter and summer on this house, because that will really decide how warm your house is in winter and how cold it is in summer, or how cool it is in summer. And orient it correctly so that you're getting maximum gain in winter and minimal in summer. And while everybody wants a nice house, I wanted a nice house too. It's important to blend functionality and aesthetics, and always design for yourself and not for shock and awe. Many times homeowners think about what their friends or relatives will say when they see their house, or people will gush about it. But remember, they will come to your house only once, and the rest of the time you yourself have to live in that house, maintain it, look after it, take care of it, and it should not become a white elephant. So we were very clear, we live in a village anyways. We actually want a house which does not shock and awe. We want a house which nobody can see, which should be hidden, and it should look very modest. And that was really part of the brief that we gave to Jitesh. The second question was what materials to use. So I was, keen to use earth, because that's really the material that all of us who think of building sustainably use. So we wanted to use earth. We wanted to use materials which have low embodied energy, can be found locally, and they can assimilate back into the ground if this house is ever broken down after however many years of it being around. So that's how we looked at each and every material that we used. And eventually we chose earth, lime, and stone. And I'll just talk a little bit more in detail about why we chose those 3 materials, and where we sourced them from. And the last thing was on technology. Like, wherever possible, I was keen to use some very low level technology, because, when you live in a village, you're always worried about maintenance or repairs or anything that you need to get done later. And if things are built simply, then simple people can repair them. But if they are built very fancily, then you need, sorry, very fancy people to come and repair them. And that may not be possible in a village setting. So ancient wisdom over modern science was our choice. Minimal repair or maintenance, whatever takes that, we will go with it. And managed by low skilled workers or even by ourselves. That was really our ask. So I had actually no idea about rammed earth. I had never heard of the concept before. I had seen a lot of daub and wattle. I had seen a lot of cob. I had never seen rammed earth. And Ritesh said, let's make the house in rammed earth, because it will look contemporary. It will look modern, and it does not have that rustic vernacular feel that some of the other technologies end up having. Now, yes, I had the same thought that many of you have when you first look at rammed earth, and that was that what happens when it rains? Won't it all just, won't it all just dissolve and disappear? So that was my reaction as well. But then I researched it, looked it up, and realized that it is a very commonly used material. It has been used in the Great Wall of China. It has been used in Ladakh, Leh Ladakh, quite a bit. Some of the buildings which withstood the Nepal earthquake were all made in rammed earth. It's a common material that's used also in some parts of the US, especially Santa Fe, I think quite commonly used there. And the way rammed earth works is that because it's a thick wall made of earth, it is very good thermal mass. This basically means that if it acts as a partition, and there is cold air on one side and hot air on the other, the two sides will try to equalize the temperature. But because this is such good thermal mass, it will take a long time for this to equalize. And therefore, the heat from the outside will take a long time to come in, and the coolness of the inside will take a long time to go out. And thereby, with the combination of ventilators and tapping into the day's change of temperatures, one can actually find a way to cool the house in in the summer and keep it warm in the winter. So we were very particular. We don't want any air conditioning. And this allows us to have a house without air conditioning. Even when external temperatures are at about, I would say the city temperatures are 45. In our farm, it'll be 42 because we've built a microclimate and a habitat. And within the house, it'll be 32. And 32 degrees with a fan is pretty comfortable, provided you wear the right clothes and have the cotton, like cotton clothes and not the synthetics. So this is what we settled on, that we will make something with rammed earth. And it was a local free material literally found under our feet. And when we dug up our ground to make the water tanks and the cellar, we got all the material. In fact, we had more material than we needed. I had to stabilize the soil in various places once the project was over. The other, nice things about it is it's obviously non-toxic. There's no plaster, no paint. You can see the wall behind me right now. That itself is a rammed earth wall. It's long lasting. And the I would say the drawbacks or the weaknesses perhaps are that it's an acquired skill. So you will have to teach somebody how to do it. It's manpower intensive. It needs a lot of pre-planning because you have to embed pipes into it before you ram. See, you can see some of these pipes, and God forbid you miss some of these pipes, you're in a little bit of trouble. And it requires form work, which again you can see here. You will need some form work. This can be made of wood or it can be made of metal. The second material that we added, sorry, this is just a nice picture thrown in the middle so that you guys stay engaged and keep seeing the final results also. So this is how a rammed earth wall can look. They are very solid, load-bearing walls. The second material that we used was stone. And the reason being that we actually have a lot of stone in the village and around us. We are in the middle of a mining kind of an area, and there is a lot of legal mining which happens here, of course, some illegal as well. And stone is a readily available material and also good thermal mass, just like earth, and lot of good local craftsmanship. So we were very keen to give as much employment to the local village as possible. And this was a good addition to our palette. And in fact, Jitesh felt very happy adding stone because it gave relief from the heavy brown color of the rammed earth and gave a nice contrast. And also some walls which were slightly curved, which were not absolutely straight and therefore could not be rammed. We picked all those up in stone. So when you see the final house, you see that it's a really good combination of the two. And the third material really was lime. We wanted to use lime because one of the very good properties of lime is that it is a natural termite resistant material. And I was very loath to do a very toxic termite treatment in the foundation of the house because remember, for us the habitat is really important. It's something we'd spent 12 years of our life building. We didn't want to contaminate it or, poison it in any way because it's not just us who live here. There are so many other species who live here as well. So that was a very big attraction. And of course, it's a natural material, it's recyclable, it's non toxic, it's supposed to be long lasting. So that's the reason we chose lime in a lot of places. And the downside really is that it takes a long setting time and you have to be careful about it and you can't be very you can't do some of the things that we've got used to doing now in our homes, like dragging beds and dragging heavy furniture, those kind of things, because it can be fragile. And it's highly dependent on the quality of both material and workmanship. And as you know, both of them are hard to find. And so this is where we dipped into we took help from Malvika Mehta of M-Line, and, we learned a lot from them. But I'll just talk a little bit more about that as we move ahead. This is just an example of how some of our poorly finished rammed earth walls, we plastered and finished them in lime. So we did a little cover up job and it worked out well for us. So you don't have to be very scared and worried about these techniques. They are very forgiving, and you can really pick up things and repair them quite easily. So this is how the three natural materials come together. You can see the stone, you can see the earth, you can see the lime on the floor, and it makes for a pretty nice mix. Okay, so the walls and the floors were settled. Really, the discussion came to what should we do for roofing. And the problem with concrete roofs is that they become very hot and we don't have any air conditioning. So we had to really think through how to create a roof which will not heat up the house. So concrete slabs, as you know, they are the standard, choice roof of choice these days, which is what most people use. It's a very hot mix of stone, cement, and steel, all of which heats up under the hot sun. And a lot of times, if you see old houses, the reason they have to be rebuilt is because the roof has caved in. It's not as if the walls have broken or the floor has broken. No, it's always the roof, because the mesh, the steel mesh that is put inside these slabs, it tends to rust over time. And once it starts rusting, it can't support the weight anymore. And then what do you do with this concrete? You have to go and, junk it somewhere, because the mix is non-recyclable. Once it's mixed up and set, then, it's just that. So we didn't want to really go ahead with a concrete roof. And we asked Jitesh, like, what can we use? And Jitesh came up with 6 different ideas and said, you can do a shallow dome, you can do a high dome, you can do a wooden roof, you can do a filler slab, you can do a stone and metal pipe roof. And so you guys choose. And our reaction was, listen, why don't we do all of them? Let's do all of them. That will give us an idea of the pros and cons of each one, and we can also share with other people. And a lot of these risks I wanted to take, because I was like, listen, if I take the risks, maybe somebody else will also be willing to take these risks. So we decided to actually go with all different types of roofing systems in different places. And they ranged from shallow domes, which you can see here in the drone shot, is built purely from brick and cement. It has no steel and it has no shuttering. And these gentlemen that you can see standing around the dome are from the Rohtak Dome family. They're very well known. You can sort of find them on Google as well. And it's just amazing how they make these roofs. And this is traditional technology we have in our country, and which for some reason we have chosen not to follow up with. And then on the kitchen roof, it was one of the first roofs we built, and we had just started the house. We had to place the water tank. And so we were already a little confused as to which roof can take the load of the water tank. And we started thinking, oh my God, will we have to use and put a concrete roof right at the beginning of the project? Because, that would really defeat the whole idea of trying to build a little more sustainably. And so we settled for the filler slab, which, as you know, is a very popular, a more popular technique relatively, of putting some earthen pots in the roof and thereby reducing your concrete consumption. And in fact, I've noticed that it also keeps the roof much cooler, because wherever there is a pot, it doesn't heat up that much. So I have a temperature gun. I go around measuring all surfaces in the summer, and that's how I know which roof is working how. And then we built a wooden roof. A wooden roof can be quite controversial, because a lot of people will say, hey, that's not sustainable. But it's not true. It is actually a very sustainable roof, provided the wood is harvested properly and provided you yourself are a net planter of trees. So, given that we've planted almost 6,000 trees here at Ananda, I have my relationship with wood is a little bit different. And I felt it'll be nice to add a wooden roof, because it gives a slightly different kind of experience, and we will learn the pros and cons of this one as well. So those are the 3 roofs, and we added a few more, which you will find details of on my YouTube channel. But here is a nice picture of a shallow dome under construction. These domes, this dome is actually has a riser of only about 9 to 10 inches, so you can easily put another floor on top of it. And it has no steel, no shuttering. The minute these guys actually make it, people start standing on these roofs, and they can take the weight. And don't ask us how it works, but it's pure magic and it works pretty well. So it's a very affordable, very cheap, and very quick to make. So in a room size of about 12 to 16 feet, it would take them 2 days to make this roof. So really, really good craftsmanship. And I think everybody can choose to integrate roofs like this into their projects. Now let's come to finishing materials. Lately I've been thinking about how toxic and inflammable finishing materials used these days by interior decorators and homeowners are, because whenever there's a fire, and unfortunately this summer's been so hot, and we've seen some horrible fires happen in India, some in Delhi, and some other places as well. And a lot of times people are dying not because they got burnt, but they just got asphyxiated because the nature of the poisonous gases that were emerging from this fire were just unbearable for them. And this is all coming from the highly toxic and highly inflammable finishing materials that are being used by interior decorators within our homes. And as a homeowner, and of course, as a designer and an architect, I would really urge everybody to look at the materials very, very carefully before they are integrated into a living space. Because at the end of it, we all have to, live in a non-toxic environment. That's the whole charm of having a sustainable house. A lot of finishing materials which are finishing is often done with ply boards, and then some pop on top of it, and then paint, or even sometimes wallpaper. They look very nice at the beginning of the house, but then don't look so good sometime later. And you have to keep renovating and keep up with time and trends, and that's something we didn't want to do. We just didn't want any headaches and something that we have to keep painting or polishing or fixing. And so we've chosen to really keep the interiors very, very low maintenance, non toxic. The exterior of the house has a simple lime wash paint on it. And I know some of you will say, "Oh, these fall out every season." Well, they do. Yes, you're right, and that is how the structure is protected, because the outer layer is sort of sacrificial. It falls off. It sacrifices itself to prevent the wall from being hurt or being damaged by the water. The interiors, wherever we wanted some color, we have done a lime plaster texture finish. So this is again just, it looks like paint, but it has texture. You don't have to repaint it again and again. And it has a breathability to it that even if you get a wet or a damp patch inside for whatever reason, it'll not it'll not crumble. It'll not look like a wet patch. The wet patch will just dry up and it'll look like texture again. That's the beauty of lime. Actually, all finishes end up looking like texture, and you can pass off anything as texture. And then in the bathrooms, we've used polished lime, which is a mirror finish kind of an experience. And this again, is has a classic and never everlasting kind of a feel to it. And we've avoided the use of tiles and things like that in our bathing spaces. This is a nice photograph of the bathroom. And then the outdoor shower that's been thrown in here, because then what's the point of living on a farm if you cannot have a open to sky shower in the warm summers? And you'll also see right there at the top that there is a certain little wall that has been built for aesthetic, but it's been built with waste bottles. And so we have a friend here in the city who runs a restaurant, and every Monday I used to go and pick up all the bottles that were drunk in his restaurant over the weekend. And we've cut them, joined two bottles, made it into a brick, and done this masonry with glass bottles. So it's a makes for a lovely garden feature, like lovely feature here, but it can be used very well for garden features anywhere. So you can definitely consider, integrating that in your constructions in the future. All right, let's talk about water, guys. It's the most important thing, something that we literally run our entire house and life on. And I was very clear that we want to harvest all the water that's falling on our rooftop, and I want the house to run on rainwater. So a simple calculation told me that I receive 150,000 liters of rainwater on my rooftop. And those of you looking for this quick calculation and how do you arrive at it? Well, the formula is take the roof of your house in square meters, multiplied by the um, average annual rainfall in millimeters, and you will get the volume of water in liters. So our volume was 150,000 liters, but of course, you cannot build water tanks which are that big. So what we ended up building was 60,000 liters of rainwater tanks, which were placed underground. These have been built absolutely conventionally with concrete as well as steel. And we put a simple filter in the middle, which is a gravel filter. It also has some natural eco fibers in it. And the water comes in from all the overhead drains straight here and then filters and goes into the rainwater harvesting tank, which you see as the first tank. And once this has enough water and the other three tanks are not full, the sensor comes on automatically and transfers the water to those tanks. So it's a very simple solution and with some sensors built into it, and all the water falling on our rooftop goes here. This also has another advantage. The other advantage is that no water falls around our house, right? Because all the water from our rooftop is draining into these water tanks. So the surrounding areas also remain quite, I would say, well drained in the monsoon. And that helps with your foundations, with your floors, with your walls. It's not a good idea to have water overflowing all around your house. Usually our tendency is to get rid of water, but in permaculture, we always try to slow down the water and conserve it. And this was the way that we've done it here, taking all the water from our rooftop into underground water tanks. As of now, I think about 8 to 9 months a year, we run on rainwater. And 3 to 4 months in a year, we are using borewell water. So there is a way to fill up these tanks both ways. And I do feel that if we become more disciplined with how we use water, for example, if there was a crunch, there was supposed to be a crisis, I would probably move to outdoor toilets and stop flushing altogether. So that water would be saved and we could actually stretch this water for 12 months. In terms of waste management, all the wastewater from our house, all the gray water, so showers, kitchen, wash basins, they all go into the garden. So all this water is managed in small beds outside the house and very close to each of the outlets. So we are not aggregating this water, we are keeping it separate and just putting them into very biologically rich and active uh, pits. Usually around these pits, we have either papayas growing or bananas growing, lemongrass growing, and all the water that comes out of our wash basins and our showers comes out here, including washing machine, by the way. And we have just shifted to using cleaners which are non-toxic. It's just a simple thing we could do. And today there are so many artisanal brands. They're doing such good work, and we just buy our products from them and use that. And so we've realized what's not good for our garden is not good for us. So we don't want to use any product which is harmful for the soil life. And in that process, we ourselves have become much healthier as well. And where black water is concerned, which is basically human poop, we've installed a biodigester. So that green box you see here is a biodigester bedded into the ground. All the waste from our toilets comes into this biodigester, and this biodigester has anaerobic bacteria in it, which feasts on human waste. So as it breaks down the human waste, it releases a small stream of liquid, which we channelize back into our garden through a soak pit. So very simple, all the waste is managed in our garden itself. And yeah, I mean, it really keeps us, our moral compass absolutely straight. We know exactly what to use and what not to use, seeing that the water goes straight into our gardens. Okay, this visual is of our cellar, and this is while it was still under construction and we didn't have a roof, and you can see the beautiful light coming in through. But let me just talk a little bit about the cellar here. So a cellar is basically a place which is underground. And what we've done here is we've just dug like a basement and built a space which has very thick walls, almost 4 feet wide at the bottom and about 3 feet wide at the top. These are made of stone and lime. And this is the place where we store all our food. So we need a cellar because we grow food. We grow a lot of food. You may not need one. But if you do decide to build one, just make sure that you are in a very well draining place because if there's a lot of water accumulating around your cellar, you will have problems of dampness and also some seepage. So our soil type itself is sandy. Our house is on an elevation. Water does not gather here. It leaves the surroundings pretty fast. And all those reasons prompted us and was suitable for us to create a cellar. It may not be in your case. So I would urge you to not just follow this blindly, but see if it works for you or not. Now, the cellar, there are three things that are important in a cellar. You have to keep the air circulating, you have to maintain a temperature, and you have to maintain certain amount of humidity. So the air circulating is done by simple exhaust fans, which run 24/7. They don't take up too much energy, and they basically drop fresh air coming in from the outside into the cellar. And this cellar, this fresh air, once it's circulated into the cellar, is exhausted out and exhausted into this cupboard that you see here, which is the refrigerator cupboard. So our refrigerator lies within this cupboard, and at the bottom of it is the outlet from the cellar. So it's cool air which is being pumped up, and you can see that the air then escapes from the top and goes out. Now, the reason I'm showing you this entire flow is, see how we've used the cool cellar air to serve the purpose of within the cellar itself, but also taken the air and pumped it through a cupboard in which our refrigerator is lying. So now the refrigerator actually has an ambient temperature, which is more like about 25 to 27 degrees in the summer. That's the temperature in the cellar. Whereas it could have been 35, 36 in the immediate environment of the refrigerator. But because it's 10 degrees lower, the energy consumption of the refrigerator also falls. And this way, the refrigerator and its ambience keeps very cool. We use less energy. And more importantly, this hot air from the fridge doesn't heat up the kitchen. So it's just like a flow of air which we have channelized. We had to throw it out somewhere. We've thrown it into the refrigerator cupboard. So actually got this idea from Michael Mobb's book Sustainable House. And those of you who've not read it, I would highly recommend that you flip through that book. It's a great book to read. So that's the cellar. And anytime you go under the ground, no matter which part of the planet you live in, you will hit similar temperatures. So in our area, which is hot, we will hit cooler temperatures, and in some freezing areas, you will hit warmer temperatures. And that's really the beauty of geothermal energy and going underground. Wherever possible, we've used very simple energy systems. I think maybe because this was made by a house was made by a woman and not a man. There isn't that much masculinity built into it. So there is no like fancy tech and high energy. We have simple solar panels. We have a 10 kilowatt plant on our rooftop, and our house runs on that. And in fact, we consume much lesser than that. We give some surplus to the government. Whenever we find that the heat is streaming in from some window and heating up our house, we plant a tree outside it. And I have used this frangipani tree as a tree of choice in some places because it is deciduous. It drops its leaves in the winter, allowing the sun to come in. And it stays green in the summer, blocking the air. Not to mention the beautiful flowers on it, which are very sweet smelling, and you get a free, non-toxic room freshener effect as well, right? And then for winters, we heat up our rooms with a simple fire stove. And because we've planted so many trees and we have so much spare firewood all around us, this again comes at a very low cost to us. The ash, by the way, from here is very useful for our plants, and it finds its way back into our flower beds. So again, very simple energy systems have been implemented, and the guiding principle has always been, listen, we don't want anything we have to look after. We don't want anything that breaks down. We don't want to have anything which has to be replaced. If this technology existed 50 years ago, let's just take it and work with it. A simple thing that each one of us can do is use salvaged and secondhand furniture. In fact, sometimes it amazes me how sometimes people build a new house and they change everything in it, no memories, no old furniture, no nothing. But I love old things, and I've tried to not only hold on to my old things, but also a friend's old furniture. And then we made a trip to the salvage yard and actually bought all the doors that we needed. So we got about 14 doors from here. These are all made of deodar wood, which are hard to find these days. They would have cost me an arm and a leg if I had gone to make any of these. In fact, that wood is controlled. You cannot even buy that wood anymore. And then we just scraped off all the paint and polished them a little bit. So we've spent money on labor to fix them, but that's always something that's been something of choice, that if we have to spend money somewhere, we will spend it on people, put it into pockets of artisans and masons rather than to put it into the pockets of corporations. So you can see here, this furniture is actually all from my friend Namita's house. She was moving homes and she was discarding all her old furniture, which I took on. And even the carpenter's bench was eventually used to convert into a study table, which you can see here in our den. It's the table I'm sitting on right now and presenting. Okay, low-tech fixtures. Again, I've already showed you some of these pictures, but wherever possible, we even made our own light fittings because I wanted fittings which have replaceable bulbs. And unfortunately, a lot of the light fittings that we get these days are these Chinese fittings, which when they stop working, you have to trash the whole fitting altogether. But we had a lot of little leftover wood from the woodwork, and we used those pieces to make these light fittings, which were actually designed by our architect. And this worked really well for us. And you've already seen the fire stoves and the gravel water filter, which are again very low tech fixtures, and they help guard against obsolescence. So here's another visual of one of our rooms: fresh air, ample light, no air conditioning. During the day, we don't need any lighting at all. And at night, our lighting is also pretty low because we try to work and live with the circadian rhythm, and we don't have these white light everywhere, which actually mess a little bit with our sleep cycles. Okay, one of the other principles that we try to follow was produce no waste. And I had a deal with Jitesh that we will not break anything that we've already made. So if it is wrong, too bad. It should have been, supervised better, or the plans should have been better. So we've not broken anything we already built. We've tried to get as many things first time right, and we did not want to dump our waste from our construction anywhere else. So what we did was, at the end of our construction, you can see this construction site. It was filled with all sorts of waste. And we built this retaining wall, which you can see in the backdrop, and picked up all the waste and chucked it behind it. And that raised the level of that area. And then finally, we, planted trees on top of it and settled it all. So we've buried all our waste right here on site. But we were very careful of not going and polluting somebody else's land and dumping waste anywhere else. And that should really be an integral part, I think, of our construction ethics if we are trying to build sustainably. This is another example of how we've reused something. Right at the beginning of the project, I was told that we'll have to build a slaking tank, a lime slaking tank, a tank in which we will put the lime and hydrate it so that we can use it. And I was like, boss, you can make any tank you want, but we're not going to break anything. So just make sure that that tank has a life at the end of its utility. And so in that process, it was designed to start with as a garden feature. So in fact, it was strange for us to build such a nice looking tank right at the beginning, but that's what we did, built this tank. And then you can see today, it's something that is actually a big attraction point for us, especially in this season, because there are a lot of water lilies and lotus that grow there. And now it's inhabited by a bunch of fish as well. So it's if you just think well in advance, I think you can really solve for a lot of problems. All right, very quickly now, how do we get this project done? And listen, it's not easy. And if you're a homeowner, you will have to get involved yourself. Please don't think that this is a house that somebody else will build for you and hand it over to you on a platter. Some of the things that really worked for us was to have a regular cadence of all hands. And this is my corporate experience coming to play, where every head or every contractor, the plumbing contractor, electrician contractor, masonry, carpentry, all of them would come together once in 2 weeks, and we would make the 4 week rolling plan of what will be done next. We would anticipate bottlenecks, dependencies. We would put a lot of rigor in BAQ estimations, and we would book time of some craftsmen in advance, especially like the Rohtak Dome people. They travel around the country building homes for people. And so if you don't slot them in a few months in advance, they're not going to show up to do your work. And then schedule work which might take long time, like lime floors, lime plasters, for example. You have to schedule it early into the mix so that you still have you can do it and yet you are on track. And I don't think I mentioned, but we built this house in 20 months, which is not bad at all. I'm pretty sure any kind of a house I'd set out to build would have taken that much time. Where architectural drawings are concerned, and to those architects who are on this call, see, timeliness is absolutely key. But you will also see that in houses like these, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. In our case, that was very common because we were doing so many things for the first time that neither Jitesh had done them. I had never built any house earlier, anyways. But even some of the masons and all had never built anything like this. So a lot of times we had to literally work off sketches, and you can see here conversations happening on WhatsApp, move this around, take this around. But that kind of presence and adaptability is required when you're building a house which hasn't been, which is not the norm, which is not something that everybody is building all the time. In terms of materials, while we all want to work with natural materials, they are not as standardized as some of our packaged materials. Like a bag of cement is a bag of cement, but a batch of lime is not a batch of lime. So you have to really identify some reliable sources, then standardize these materials and specifications, and you have to test and learn on site quite a bit. A lot of times people ask me on my YouTube videos, what's the mix ratio? Please tell us. It doesn't help my telling you what the mix ratio is, because honestly, I don't know what your lime is. I don't know what quality of sand you are using, what quality of brick powder you have. So it's very misleading to just take somebody's ratio and work with it. You have to test and learn and build your own ratios. And finally, wisdom and skills are hard to find. So, like a lot of times, we've had to do technology transfer. We got a team from Auroville, from Tamil Nadu, that came in and trained us on rammed earth. And then there was such a big language barrier because they only spoke Tamil, and our workers either spoke Haryanvi or Bihari. And we had to do that, transfer of knowledge, which we did. Then in this visual, you can see Ramesh ji. Ramesh ji came from Udaipur and he taught everybody how to do lime plasters. And again, there was a lot of loss in translation, and some things we didn't get right. And then we had to jump in and I had to connect with Malvika and get a lot of clarifications and things like that. But we have still gone ahead and worked with artisans. I mean, that's the best thing you can do with your money, is to put money into needy individual pockets. And I think, unlike, these cookie cutter houses, there is a certain soul that you will find in sustainable structures, and the energy of the craftsmen actually get embedded into the walls. At least that's what I believe. So it's very, very important to keep the team motivated, happy, positive, treat them with respect. I mean, I always feel I'm indebted to them for life because they have built my house. And actually it's a skill which none of us, at least I don't know how to build. So it's strange that some of these jobs which are so important are not as well paying as some of the other jobs which are not half as useful or important. But I think it's important for us to respect them because they're building a house for you. So this is a finished picture of our living room. You can see the Catalan dome, lime plastered walls. That's a polished floor at the back, old furniture, all coming together. And finally, let me just talk about the cost, because I think all of you must be thinking about that. I think I've not written it here, but honestly, people say, "Kitna, what budget should we have to build a house like this?" And my answer always is, the budget is what you can afford. So never ever build something which you cannot afford. That will be the silliest thing that you can do. It's strange in today's world. There are people who build way beyond their budget and then land themselves in trouble. So please build what you can afford. Now, whatever is your budget, you can build sustainably within that. And honestly, we built in the budget that we had. It's probably cost us as much as a normal brick and mortar concrete house would have cost, except that in this case, 70% of the money goes into the pockets of the artisans and 30% into the material cost. Whereas in a normal cookie cutter house, modern house that you see, you'll probably spend 70% on material and 30% on labor. That's the only difference. Yeah, but it'll actually, you can build like this absolutely within the same budget. Um, in your own calculations, you must, of course, put yourself a little credit for your low carbon footprint. I think that's invaluable. You should budget the cost of painting your house, the interiors every 4 5 years, renovating, energy bill utilization, utility bill savings. Like we have zero cost of water, zero cost of electricity. That is a cost saving for sure. And then cost of rebuilding, renovating every few years, you have no fashion trends to follow. So it really makes good financial sense actually to build sustainably. But do remember that it is a journey, and it's very difficult to be absolutely sustainable. I mean, there'll be enough things in my house which I still wish that I could have done them better, but I could not. For example, there are pillars and beams throughout the house which is made with cement and steel, because we could not embed steel into lime. The two react, and we didn't want to use bamboo because it seemed too risky. There was no example of it, and I didn't want to take that bigger risk. So definitely there are some parts which are not sustainable, but you have to still do what you can, and don't let great be the enemy of good. Lastly, sustainability has trade-offs. Reflective tiles that we've used on the roof, they actually help to cool down the house by 2 or 3 degrees, but they have high embodied energy. They are tiles, they've been built in a factory and they've come from there. Similarly, solar panels are non-biodegradable, and energy battery bank is highly polluting. I mean, finally, we didn't keep one, but there are people who have a high energy battery bank also. And a water tank is made with concrete and steel. So these are all trade-offs, right? But just a thoughtful, conscious construction and project management is really the key part here. Like, just keep asking yourself, why are we making this? Do we really need it? Can we make it smaller? Why are we using this material or technology? Is there a better substitute? Can we use something else? Can we do without it altogether? Chodo, let's not do it only. Things like that, you have to keep asking yourself rather than just going with the flow, where somebody is telling you, do this, do this, do this, and you're just doing it. So, as a homeowner, you really have to apply your mind and put your foot down and stay in control of your project if you want something like this to come through. All right. I think that's my time. And now I'm going to hand over back to Subodh, and we will be taking some questions at this point in time. So, thank you for being so patient. I can see that almost all of you are still here with me, and that's really, really nice of you.
Thank you, Manisha, for your wonderful insights and for your wonderful lessons that you have shared across your journey of building this beautiful, sustainable house. And as you have shared, a lot of people would have been empowered and enlightened and got a lot of insights through your journey. And what was beautiful was in the chat, there were many people who were, already giving answers to the questions that people are asking. So it's very great to see such kind of engagement going on, and this
Fantastic.
shows the yeah yeah and this shows the amount of interest in this topic. And yeah, so without further ado, I would like to ask some of the questions which I'm sure you would have shared in few of your slides. But yeah, just to quickly go back and touch on a few of the questions, right? So we had one of the learners who are curious to understand in terms of sourcing, availability of expertise, and how did you calculate the actual impact of measure of trade-offs, if you can
Oh,
give some
well, that's a
insights on
good.
that.
So I'll talk about sourcing. I think sourcing, see, you have the internet on your fingertips now. It's become much easier to source than what it would have been, let's say, 20, 30 years ago. A lot of stuff you'll find on India Mart. You can order small batches of samples. You can talk to people who've already working in this area, like Hunar Shala is a great example, or the studio in Auroville, and Earth Institute in Auroville as well. So one has to really not be shy of reaching out to people, talking to them, asking them questions, then doing some sampling, doing some tests. And I think it's very much possible to do that today. It was not possible probably earlier, but that's quite possible. And what was your second part of the question, Subodh?
Yeah, in terms of how to measure the trade-offs in this
The
project.
trade-offs, well, actually, there is, like for example, if you're doing a trade-off of using building a water tank and harvesting your rainwater, for me, like, what is more important? Like, just you do you want the water or you don't want? Do you want that kind of water self-sufficiency? That's something that your life depends on, so obviously you want it. So some of those trade-offs are pretty easy to do once you actually start thinking about them and talking and discussing internally. They are not that difficult, and I did not do them in a very scientific manner, in the sense that I have not put a pen and paper together and calculated X versus Y. But I think simple conversations with your architect, with your family members, and just with some subject matter experts will help you to figure this out on your own pretty easily. It's not rocket science, guys.
That's a very beautiful answer, Manisha. Thank you for throwing some light on that question. So we have got a lot of questions from audience asking if this session slides can be shared and if this session is recorded. So I'm pleased to say that yes, we are recording this session, and at some point in this week, we will be dropping this recorded session in the Ananda Permaculture Academy website. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for asking these questions. Right. And moving on, Manisha, the next question for you is in terms of security. Yeah. The people are asking how safe and secure are homes that are built on materials like rammed earth?
Well, you mean in terms of physically falling down?
Yes.
So, well, we'll find out. But I'll give you a small example. Before we got started, we built two, three samples, right? They were like small benches. We built them in a certain area. And of course, you can imagine the villagers were all laughing at us. They were like, this madam has gone crazy. She's building a house out of mud, whereas all of us have graduated to what they call pakka houses. And this way, this one rain and this wall is going to wash away. This was what was in their head. So anyway, but they were being paid. They were like happy to build. Then one day I had to break those benches because something else was coming up there. So I told them, yeah, take a pickaxe and just break them. And the guy started breaking it and he could not. It was physically impossible to break it. So then, the other chap would come and say, tu hut, I will break, and then the next stronger man of the village would get down to trying to break it, and then he couldn't. And then a third person came, and it was crazy. They could not break those things down, and they had barely been made for maybe 9 or 12 or 15 months max. So in that much time, they had become that solid. So I think that day everybody realized how solid a rammed earth wall can be. And of course, that exercise gave me a lot of confidence also into what I was doing. But I think they are reasonably safe homes. And yeah, I mean, when you look around the news these days and you see all these fancy constructions collapsing, who's to say?
Right, right. Thank you for answering that question, Manisha. So the next question from the audience are in terms of managing the, we have got a lot of questions in terms of are there any alternatives for this harmful chemicals in terms of soaps,
Oh,
detergents, or
yes,
shampoos? Yeah.
of course, lots of them. And in fact, I use different things from different people, but I use the laundry detergent from a brand called Herbal Strategy. Strategy with a I, Herbal Strategy. So definitely something that you guys can check out. Coparo is another good brand. We use the hand wash from them. And then we have a gentleman here who lives locally, and he runs a brand called Earthwise, and he makes the soaps and the shampoos that we use. So if you just look around, you will find enough people. And we don't use stuff like Lysol and those kind of cleaners, because again, there's no need. I've worked in this industry, guys. I know half these things are sold to us because somebody has to sell them to to somebody. So Yeah, there are good cleaners and alternates available now.
Yeah, I guess your experience would have been quite instrumental in this aspect, Manisha. So, yeah. And in terms of if you had to compare between or give an option between limestone and rammed earth, what would you recommend the audience to choose
They
in
are
terms of
not
building such kind
really,
of
they are
project?
not really comparable because they are like equal, they are like oranges and apples. Rammed earth, you make the wall with rammed earth. The earth itself is the wall. Lime is a binder. It's a mortar. So you can use it, but you'll still have to use either a brick or a stone to build your wall with. So I think the two are not comparable. Then there is stone, which we have used with lime as a mortar. So stone and
Right.
rammed earth are comparable because they'll all both help you to build a wall. But lime is basically a mortar, so that can a binder. So you can use it as mortar, you can use it as plaster, you can use it as a finishing layer. So two different things. But I have used lime plasters extensively in this house on the floor as flooring, as well as the walls as mirror finishes, textured finish, as well as paint. I've had good experience on the walls. On the floor, I've had some bad issues, bad experiences in some places, especially where there's a lot of heavy footfall. And I needed to repair some of these floors. And then I also had to replace them in some places because even after repairing them, I felt that they were too fragile and they were cracking up or flaking, not cracking, but flaking. Yeah.
Good. So, Manisha, there's one more question. Since you have
Yes.
brought up some recommendations of best practices and some connections, we have audiences who are very curious to know if they can get the information of the architects who are associated in this project. If yes, what is the
Yeah,
best
yeah,
way to
absolutely.
find them?
His name is
Yeah.
Jitesh Malik, Studio Oriole. And in fact, all my YouTube videos will have their details at the bottom in the description. So you can find them there. Very easy to find. Not they're published. His name is published everywhere on all our communication.
Okay. Since you brought up the YouTube videos and your knowledge shared in the YouTube. I know the answer for this, but we have got some questions on how do you usually, uh, you know, encounter this uninvited guests like termites, snakes, or any other species which are invasive, and how do
Uh-huh.
you sort of have strategy in terms of controlling them to not enter in the human space?
Yeah, well, so usually in permaculture design, you will always learn about leaving a wildlife zone. Yeah, that's part of permaculture design. And if you guys take a permaculture course, you learn about that as well. Obviously, Ananda is a very well developed and established permaculture farm. So we have enough space left for wildlife. We don't usually encounter big snakes, but once in a while, a tiny snake might enter the house through one of the gaps. But then that's where the cats, the house cats, come in handy. So we have two cats, Mishti and Bholu, and they are pretty active and vigilant. And today they caught a mouse. They kill at least one or two lizards every day. And once in a while, they'll catch a baby snake as well.
I think this is a very beautiful lesson of nature, isn't it? Like we all are part of this ecosystem and we respect our boundaries. And yeah, I think this is a great lesson to learn in terms of, living this ecosystem and making them, be a part of them. Good. And we had a question from an audience
Yes.
asking, did uh, did the house was built first and then later the cellar, or did you
No, no,
build the
no, no. The
cellar and
cellar
then
was the first room to be built because the kitchen is on top of the cellar. So the cellar was the first thing to be built. So we excavated the cellar and we excavated the water tanks. And then all that earth was used to build the walls. Okay.
good?
Cellar
Good.
was one of the first things to be built, and then the kitchen on top of it. And then we started building the rest of the house. So yeah,
Awesome.
you can't make the cellar later because it's underground. So you need to make it first.
Fair, fair. Right. And in terms of how do you determine the annual rainfall?
Oh,
So
you
this is
just
one
have
of the
to Google
questions that
it.
we have
It's
seen.
very easy to do that. In fact, if you are like, for example, if you're somewhere close to a big town near a city, you can just Google and ask what's the average rainfall in Nagpur or in Chennai, and you'll get the number. It's not difficult at all.
Yeah, that is where the power of Google is, or
Yes,
resources
absolutely.
are. We can just
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a
quickly
very,
look
very
them up and
important,
find some
it's a
alternatives.
very important number for
And
each one of us to know, actually.
right, right. We have got some interesting questions about the choices that was made in building this project. So the question is like, there are many traditional ways of refrigerating. Why did
Yes.
you choose something that are dependent on electricity? Yeah, there are solar panels, but somebody asked the question, why can't we use a mud refrigeration instead of yeah?
So I think one of the things that we were trying to do in this house was trying to be as sustainable as we can without compromising on the kind of life that we were little used to living. And we didn't want to be like, for example, we also don't have composting toilets, which is another thing that you could consider building. But we didn't want to make the house into a place where nobody wants to visit us, right? Or if we for 25 years were used to, let's say, in keeping something in the fridge, though our fridge is usually empty, but even we, we do a lot of preserves and pickles and things like that, and we need to store them sometimes at refrigeration temperature. We didn't see any reason why we should be depriving ourselves of something, but at the same time we didn't want to be extravagant in our use of energy, and that's the trade-off that we've made. So even with the house, you'll see that while it's a rammed earth house, it's a very nice looking house and a very modern and a very contemporary house. And that was the brief to Jitesh, and I think he's really done a good job, because the minute we start making these very old traditional vernacular houses, people are like, "हाँ यार ये ठीक है. It's okay to go and live there for 2 days and come back, but it can't be my house." And that's the time you do a huge disservice to sustainability, because then it starts becoming like sustainability is uncomfortable, unattractive, unpleasant, and therefore I don't want to do it.
Right. So, Manisha, I'm very mindful of time. We have got,
Yes, of course.
10 to 12 minutes left, and it's very encouraging to see a lot of questions have been asked. So, I wish to take two more questions, if that's okay. And yeah, the first question is that, somebody of our learners or audience have heard that this kind of structures that are built with rammed earth attracts mosquitoes and termites. How true it is in your experience? Does it differ from region to region, or if you have some
So
insights on
mosquitoes,
this?
no. Termite also, I think the main issue with termite is, what is your garden like? So what happens? See, termite exists in the soil and will always be there. You cannot get rid of termite. Now the question is, what does termite decide to eat? If there is enough food for the termite in your garden, it will go and eat that food. But if you hardscaped your entire garden, if it's filled with chemicals, if you're trying to kill termite everywhere, if there's no mulch, if there's no food for it in the soil, no carbon in the soil, it's going to come and eat your cupboard. That's for sure. So it's a that's why I always say build the habitat first. Build the habitat, make sure all species are taken care of. And then one day you will make your own dwelling unit. You will ask them permission to allow you to come and live here as well. That has to be your approach.
Brilliant, brilliant, Manisha. So the last question. Sorry, we are unable to take all of the questions, but we had been mindful in terms of time, and I have tried to consolidate the frequently asked questions. But we encourage you to still stay in touch and ask your questions at uh, permaculture.co.in. We are more than happy to take your queries from there. So I would like to ask last question, Manisha. So there are a lot of audience who are very curious about, are there any specific programs in terms of architecture, or embedding these practices into their own contexts? So if there is such, would you like to throw some light on that?
Well, actually, I don't know because I teach permaculture, and we will definitely, in the permaculture course itself, we tell you about build structures, teach you about how to approach them, how to think them through. But across the country, from time to time, I know there are many people who organize earth architecture workshops, hands-on workshops, and a simple Google search will take you to them. So please, look out for that. But again, guys, having done this, been there, I want to tell you that if you just set your heart to it and you set your mind to it, you can do this. It is not difficult. It's just about you wanting to do it. And I saw some comments somewhere which said, we can't do it, only a big builder can do it. Actually, nothing is further from the truth. The big builder can never do it because the big builder has no conscience. You have the conscience. You can do it.
Awesome. That's a great way to consolidate the session, Manisha. I think you have been phenomenal throughout this whole session. I think the decision to start this webinar series with you was, very meaningful, and I'm sure that a lot of audience who have joined would, resonate with the insights that you have shared. And yeah, it's very pleasing to hear all of your insights and the way how you have delivered this project. And also, I would like to thank all the audience who have stayed till the end and heard Manisha speaking, and also engaged in the comments and shared your valuable insights as well. And yeah, for those who would like to continue this conversation, I would encourage you to follow Manish on Instagram, so on LinkedIn, and yeah, do find more about permaculture or some of the interesting courses and testimonials, what people are talking about, certain permaculture practices. Yeah, I would encourage you to go and find more in the website. And also, I'm very pleased to say that apart from the general courses, the Permaculture Academy also has the certifications, the Permaculture Design Certification. So this enables, for those who are passionate, who already know the fundamentals, who are very passionate to implement them in their own context. I guess this certification would guide you. So yeah, there are two ways: guided and self-paced. We have got amazing uh, you know teachers who would be helping you in this journey. So yeah, I would encourage you to find more about it in the website as well. And uh, yeah, so we are coming up with some of the exciting sessions like this. Like I said, this is the first webinar as part of our way to engage and share the knowledge that is collected through the journey. And yeah, you have the two handles of our LinkedIn and Instagram. We encourage you to join us and share all your thoughts from today's session, or in general to learn more about what is coming in the upcoming months of the Permaculture Academy. To give you a small tease about what is coming up in the upcoming months. So we have uh, collaborated with the Utsav, and he is coming up with an interesting session of his lessons and his observations and his journey that he has seen in Eastern Himalayas. And he'll be sharing about building circular systems in a linear world where this world is dominant with a lot of capitalism. And he would be bringing up some of his insights of how we can make this systems more circular, right? And this is the one which we are coming up in August. And then in the following month, in September, we are bringing you another interesting topic from Kapil Mandewala. So we have got a lot of questions and queries. We live in an urban setup. We have a very small place. We do not have acres of lands, but we would like to realize some of these principles and frameworks in our small space. How do we do it? So the answer to the question is going to be this session. So for those who are interested in this, we would highly recommend you to join us in this session. So yeah, I would show you again this QR codes if you haven't got the chance to join us and be part of the community, please join us. And at the end, we would be happy to take your feedbacks, because we are continuously working towards making this experience even better and enhanced, so that we are talking to our community and we're listening to your insights, and resonate our interaction meaningfully. So we have got a 60-second, less than 60-second form, a survey form, where we would be capturing your insights and learning what would you want to hear more in the upcoming months. So that will be very helpful for us to curate this engagement for you in the coming months. And also, we are uh, looking forward to share the badge as a thank you for attending today's session. So yeah, feel free to scan the QR code and participate in the session. I'll give a couple of seconds for everybody to scan the QR code. Yeah, and I'm dropping a link to the form as well, if anybody is unable to access the QR code. Yeah, you can feel free to copy this link and give your valuable surveys that can help us enhance this experience even better in the further sessions, right? And lastly, I would like to thank everybody for joining us today. We really value your meaningful time this evening. I know everybody would have their day jobs or their own personal commitments, but this shows the amount of commitment. This shows the amount of interest towards this topic. That is where we have come up with this initiative. Yeah, for that we really thank you for joining us. Stay connected. If you have any questions, if you want to continue these conversations, connect us at this contact number, and also you can email us at this email id, learn@permaculture.co.in. And yeah, as always, if you're curious, want to learn more about our initiatives, we have got some free materials available, some interesting blogs, some testimonials. You're more than happy to explore them at permaculture.co.in. And yeah, do join us in this journey from our various social media platforms. And if you have a chance, share your takeaways in by tagging us on your social media platform. Lastly, I would like to thank Manisha for sharing your insights, and I'm
Not
very
at all. It's
pleased
been my
to.
pleasure, totally. Yeah. It's been fun.
Yeah.
I think we've had a really nice first webinar. Thanks to you also, Subodh, and thanks very much to all the participants who joined. Do stay tuned. Like Subodh shared, there's a really nice lineup of speakers coming up. And if you have any other speaker you would want us to invite, you can give us that reference as well.
All right. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure to host this session, and I hope you guys have a pleasant rest of the evening.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Good night.